I got a few questions that have come in on this subject, and it has to do with the topic of limerence. You know what limerence is? If you don't, you can just look it up. But it is in a few questions that are sent in. There's a lot of confusion over what love is, what love looks like. And this is probably one of the biggest manifestations that's taking place in our world because we've not been rooted and grounded in what love is. We are so confused as to what love looks like, how it applies in our lives. No wonder everyone's in confusion of it. Yet the Bible talks a lot about it, what it looks like. I've done extensive teaching work on it, hoping I can help make at least a bit of a dent into being a help to this. But this word limerence is revealing another facet of our lack of understanding what love is, or how to even handle attraction or feelings for other people and stuff like that. We tend to get lost in them because of our lack of equipping. Limerence, you can throw it up in your search if you want to, or ask your AI tool, whatever it is. But it's basically, it's a obsessive infatuation with somebody. And a lot of times you have this infatuation with this other person, and often it's not necessarily reciprocated. So you feel this intrusive obsessiveness about this other person, creates a fantasy kind of world. Now, when I talk about obsessiveness, there's two kinds of obsessiveness. And it's not uncommon that people have both, in their life. There's the obsessiveness that creates obsessive compulsiveness, which that kind of obsessiveness is intrusiveness. There's an intrusiveness of thoughts, emotions, urges that are unwanted or disturbing. And that's in a lot of my OCD material, right? Then there's the aspect of obsession where it's kind of used culturally. Oh, I'm so obsessed with this show. I'm obsessed with this movie star. I'm obsessed with this music. I'm obsessed. It's this sense of intrusiveness of a desire of propelling. And this can kind of move us into a world of more addictions. Now, addictions and OCD have a lot of overlap. And I talk about that in my book, The OCD Healing Journey. I'm not going to necessarily get into that in what I'm sharing here. And so I'll address two questions, but let me just first address the battleground so that I'm going to encourage you to dig deeper into what it means to live in love, to grow in love, to mature in love, because limerence is feeding a fantasy world. Now, when you were a kid growing up, there's plenty of people you had a crush on. You had a crush on this person. You had a crush on that famous person, or maybe somebody that you knew, or we have what we called crushes, right? And it's not like that's a bad thing. And you can even, as a grown adult, you have this person you think is attractive, or this person that you like hearing them talk, or this person that you look up to. We have these we admire. But you learn as you grow in your life, you learn how to calibrate that, where it doesn't drive your life and drive your journey and take over. With this battleground, the person feels consumed by it. And what it does, it feeds a fantasy world because it's not reality. It's not an actual relationship. It's not a flourishing, growing relationship. It's a fantasy world perception of this. And when fantasy overtakes somebody's life and has a heavy influence, it disconnects them from reality. And reality is what we need to face in our life. In mental health and in enhancing mental, emotional relationship health, we need to see our life as it is. We need to walk in reality, because many of our mental health battlegrounds are a disconnect from reality. Whether it's a disconnect, we're not seeing things in a healthy way, or it's a disconnect, we're escaping pain. And fantasy, we live in an increasing fantasy world. There's many ways you can escape and kind of go into another world. You can even virtually just kind of put something on your head and enter into a world that just disconnects you from it. And this can be a appealing thing to many people that are empty, lonely, feeling a sense of brokenness, disconnected from themselves, especially. So this fantasy escape causes them to not be able to see their life or see things as they are. Now, here's where I saw this. I saw this increasing. Now, it's kind of this kind of thing's always been around, but I saw it increasing maybe back in my pastoring. And so we're going back 10, 15 years ago. And one of the phenomenons I was watching, I was doing some seminar teaching on discernment. It was a Sunday night class I was doing, and I was talking through like a lot of Hollywood phenomenons. And one of the popular movies and books at the time was the Twilight series. And I used that as a cultural example to kind of break it down. There's aspects of it, what is it, the wolves or whatever, and things and changing and all that. There's like that occult aspect to it. But I wanted to talk a little deeper to that, not just kind of fuss over that. There was a gateway sense of fantasy that this movie was bringing out that was pulling on a lot of people. And I saw it really pulling on the hearts of females too. It was just pulling on this sense of like this intense romance. Now that's been around, romance novels and all those kind of things have been around, but I saw a increased captive audience that was just hooked into this. So people who could barely read through a book are like flying through reading these books, right? And we have a massive uptick in fantasy kind of novels, of this picture of unrealistic, obsessive, addictive, lust-filled, infatuated kind of world of what relationship and romance should look like. And I saw that trend because this is what I saw at the same time. I saw at the same time something that really shocked me, and even to this day is surprising. Statistically, the rapid increase in pornography addiction amongst females. I actually get more emails and questions of pornography addiction from females than I do men. And that is a complete flip from maybe 20 years ago, when it was just always considered to be a male problem. And I could get into, okay, what makes pornography a battleground for men? But this area for the female, because our wiring is different as men and as women, our wiring is different, and what captivates us and pulls on us. But I saw this connection between a fantasy world, because it was programming us to see romance, that's what it's got to look like. We've been under a cultural hypnosis, and nowadays it's everywhere, and Instagram and TikTok and just the whole zeitgeist, I guess you could say, of what we live in, of what we're subconsciously being hit with. I have this whole pathway of OCD I talk about relationship OCD, and there's so many right questions. I just did a big live on it, and a big thing you see not only in there but culturally is this confusion over what the picture of love in the journey looks like. We're supposed to feel this thing, and we're supposed to feel it on a regular basis. And because society is, it's like if your baseline is here, right here in the middle of the screen. Those of you listening to audio, I just have my hand like in the middle of the screen. Most of society is like here. It's just kind of struggling. There's depression, emptiness, lack of fulfillment, right? So instead of working on getting our baseline here, which that's what love does. Love brings you back to stability. Because within love is self-control. Within love is, I'm not searching endlessly for that rush and chasing that. I'm getting stabilized each day. I practice relationships in real life, and I practice giving in relationship, right? So instead of that baseline being brought, we're looking for this, and we're living in that. So things like limerence can take over. It creates this disconnect. So I see this fantasy also with pornography, and it's also it's just creating this disconnect from reality, from facing your pain and your problems. And this is my biggest concern, is it disconnects you from actual real life interaction. I'm teaching stuff here virtually. I'm here in this studio, we're here and communicating. You see us talk, you see us share. We're being ourselves to the best that we can to help encourage you guys in your journey. But this can't be a replacement for actual people interaction. That's why I encourage from a basic level, whether it's me saying hi to the mailman and talking to someone at CVS and Dunkin' Donuts, to deeper friendships of sharing and deeper interactions. That is so needed in our lives because we're living in a setting where the younger generations are very socially anxious at record levels, incredibly socially anxious and incredibly insecure. Then they go online to try to find somebody, to find romance, right? And it takes a lot of work, and you're going through rounds of rejection, and then people give up, and there's ghosting, and then there's people with fake profiles, and then there's people that come across one way and come to find out, they're felons or whatever, and it's taking away from the beauty of what we're needing, which is actual human being interaction. And so I've seen this trend of fantasy where this is a whole different subject too. That movie Avatar, there's a couple of them that have come out, but remember when it came out, I was reading articles that people, when Avatar came out, I forget when it came out, was it 2008, 9 or something like that? That when Avatar came out, people were struggling with depression because they'd watch Avatar, get sucked into this alternate world, and then after the movie, they'd have to go back to their life, and there was enough reports of this, of going, people are dealing with a sense of depression. Their sense of livelihood has been affected deeply by a movie they're watching. So this is a trend I think we need to be discerning, be aware of, because it's not allowing us to take fruitful steps, because relationships are work. Relationships involve, you get hurt, there's heartache, there's pain, there's goofiness, awkwardness, but it's worth it because God designed us as relational beings. And apart from relational interaction, we erode, we struggle within ourselves. We struggle inside. Now, so and I'll get to the two questions in just a moment because I'll give feedback to it. But there is when limerence is taking place, it's a sign of the need for emotional development. It's bringing a realization of there's emotional immaturity, because it has an easy hook to stay having attention in our lives, but it keeps us emotionally stunted, because it's not leading us to real life fruitful interactions, and then it becomes an addiction, and just like a drug or just like an OCD obsession, this becomes something that is now dominating your attention. And so for people that have this struggle, you have to learn to treat these just like you do intrusive thoughts. Oh, there it goes. It's wanting to pull me into this. I notice it. I see it. Because the journey of healing from addictions is actually learning to practice self-control, of learning to see something, but realizing I'm loved. There's no life in that. You can float on by, because I'm going to look for true nutrition, which is loving relationships, good friendships, healthy, and I'm going to, yes, dating and all that stuff. Yes, taking steps into those things, but not allowing this to rule over you. Okay, so with that said, one question here said, I want to know how should I tackle limerence, which is love addiction. I'm 23 years old. I've been talking about this young woman I met 2 years ago. She's a pastor, and we met for Bible study virtually for about 6 months or so. Okay, here virtually, right? So, like I said, virtual is great, but it can create an illusion that's not necessarily always real life. When we first met, I was on the verge of leaving my apostolic Pentecostal church due to spiritual abuse and doctrinal differences. At this time, I was also going through a lot of depression due to the grief of losing loved ones and battling sinful habits in my life. During this time, I eventually joined a local church that was connected to a larger parachurch community that my Bible study teacher was a part of. I quickly became attracted to her, but simultaneously, I was growing my hunger for the Word of God and saving souls. So, because you see someone who's attractive, we need to learn, culture, that you see someone who's attractive, that person's attractive. Okay, moving on. We are very hooked in that, it means something. I gotta follow this driving urge. When I met her, something about her felt familiar or comforting. Yeah, and that's very understandable that you could find there's, in a man's mind, some of the attraction there can be nurture. She had a nurturing presence. And if she's involved in ministry and things, maybe she has a shepherding heart, and that's appealing to you, and it's probably pulling on maybe some mother wounds and nurture wounds and stuff like that. To make a long story short, she ended up getting married and now focuses on her own church mission within our community. It's been close to 2 years since she's been married, but I can't stop thinking about her. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You just need equipping on how to deal. You deal with this like you would an intrusive thought. It floats through. Oh, I got this. I'm in love with her. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not. But you have this feeling. Okay, let it pass on through and go practice relationship interactions in real life. I don't have sexual thoughts with her. I just want to be affirmed by her. So you recognize that. I am needing affirmation, and I'm putting it in a place that's not going to be helpful for me. One of the things I've tried to overcome this limerence is to have no contact with her. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But it's impossible because sometimes she joins my church prayer meetings online. Okay, that's not something you can help because you're right. You get it. We host retreats she comes to do in person. It's difficult because our community is made up of small pioneering churches. We both happen to be missionaries. By the way, when I asked the Lord about this problem, he told me that I should fix my eyes on him and that his love was enough for me. Yes, it's this thing of like the Lord's love is enough for you. It can be very distorted. God created Adam and said, it's not good that you're alone. So it's not just you and God by yourself. It's you and God and other people. But you learn to act in faith that God, your love is enough for me by practicing working through neediness and not acting on the neediness. That's where it comes into play. I agree with the Lord, but it's hard to focus on just him when limerence. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. God, I'm just focused on you. Oh, she's good looking. Oh, I got to focus on you. What does that mean? What does that look like? I'm focusing on God. Focus, God, focus on God. Focus, Danielson. Focus on ice. Focus on God. Ice, focus. It's like, what does that even mean? We drive ourselves crazy. Now, you learn to practice your life in God with other people. So it's more the other things I was sharing with you about. Okay, and then somebody else, kind of similar vein. You said some nice compliments. I appreciate that. I like this guy from work. And we always talked and sometimes make jokes with each other. I knew him growing up, so I was familiar, of course. I didn't think I would like him until now. We started finally start back talking. I think you mean getting back to talking. I don't think you're talking to each other's backs. But anyways, a few months after working together, I would think about him, well, more like obsess. Right. Now, culturally, we feed this. Oh, you're obsessed. Oh, imaginations about him and what it would look like for the both of us. Now, here's the reality. He's definitely not a Christian, and he's pretty much friendly with other women there as well. Yeah, if you're a Christian, I wouldn't advise even pursuing a normal relationship. I wouldn't pursue a dating relationship, even though yours is you're developing this fantasy world. But I'm not an encourager of what we used to call missionary dating, which is people that try to date somebody in hopes that they'll come to the Lord. Yeah. Okay, so there are so many red flags I can see and list, but my heart goes, he's too funny though and cute. Honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed because even though we've known each other for years now, I don't really know him as a person. Right? And that's what limerence will do. You don't really know the person, but you feed a fantasy world. We got to get you back into reality. Back to life. Back to reality. Back to life. Back to reality. Remember that jam? I was going to play that over and over again. Hold on,
what happened?
My battery ran out in my ear pack. I got this pack that I use for my ears, and I thought the battery would last, and it didn't. So for me, the lights go out. I hear nothing. So I have to I have to put it back in. So, okay, so got to get you back to life and back to reality. And I think this is a word for everyone because we want to chase that feeling. I just got this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. It's all just codependency and infatuation and call it limerence. Limerence is just another word for obsessiveness, addictive obsessiveness. And so we kind of have terms for everything, you know, and we have to have a name and a label for everything. It's a growing list of stuff. But get us back to love, and love is practice. Learn to love you want to say, I want to learn to love your neighbor as yourself. Learn how to be loving to other people as you would want to be loved. Learn to see yourself through love. Learn to practice. Those of you that have a desire to be married, my encouragement to you is develop healthy friendship interactions. Go out, make friends, and go out and take advantage of opportunities. If you're single, want to get married, go out and take advantage of opportunities. Go get involved in ministry. Go get involved in things that you can serve other people. That is where you'll set yourself up for the best opportunities. And God will meet you in that. And it's what happened to me, and it happened to others as well too. So hope that helps address that issue, address that area.
That's soul to soul, somebody said. Right, Polly? However do you want me? Go ahead, babe.
Let me ask AI what limerence is, because I told people to search that.
Oh, and you'll say it in the robot, but that's really good. Yes. Oh, that's right.
It's a state of mind where a person is obsessively infatuated with another person. Wait, hold on. This one's a little better. Known as the limerent object, it's characterized by an involuntary attachment and strong desire for the other person's feelings to be reciprocated. Limerence can feel like an intense form of love, but it differs from love or lust because it's based on uncertainty about the person's feelings. Some signs and symptoms include intense longing, fear of rejection, fantasizing, jealousy and possessiveness, obsessive thoughts, compulsive behaviors. I want to be loved.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Kevin. Well, you got the robot voice.